Omar Ta Satt, greetings to you, Highlight. My name is Bella Isis Mitchell, and I am the author of the fabulous book series of books Take Courage, Lightworkers Take Heart, My Life Among Aliens. I lead a double life, one as an Earthling and the other as a crew member of a Pleiadian lightship. I have a commander above me. My missions on Earth are varied and numerous, but one of my main tasks is to tell you what it's like to live in reality and what it's like to live in 5D, because I'm already living in the new world, right among you on the same timeline. No, I'm not from the future. I am from Austria, which is in the center of Europe, and I'm telling my story to the whole world. Take courage, lightworkers. The world we long for is already here. You just have to look from a different perspective. Look with your heart and dimensions will open up that you never thought you could walk through. Follow me on my journey. Come with me and be enchanted. You can find my vibrant books on Amazon under Bella Isis Mitchell. Take Courage, Lightworkers, Take Heart, My Life Among Aliens. Fasten your seatbelts, here we go. Let's see. Yes, that's good. You will hear a reading from one of my magical books. Take Courage, Lightworkers, Take Heart, My Life Among Aliens, volume number 3. Otherwise, please always read my books in order, as everything builds up energetically. What you are about to hear is from a true story. I now turn to page... let's see... 111 and read an extract from chapter 13, The UFO. My teacher and protector, the reptilian father, kept pushing me to face my fears. Sometimes he gave me tests, and sometimes he gave me free rein to decide how far I would go. Of course, I preferred the second. There were basic situations that were planned from above that I had to overcome, and there were moments when I looked for or found opportunities to face my fears myself. Some situations were literally put in front of me to test whether I would participate voluntarily. Yes, I often did. Back then I would have avoided many events, but now it's not so easy because my Pleiadian mother has said many times that my abilities can only mature if I become braver and braver. Only then could they fully develop. Since I want that, I have to go through a lot of tests. Sometimes I fail and have to repeat the test, but sometimes I pass with flying colors. Some of these tests were very difficult from an earthly perspective, but were ultimately necessary to support my soul growth. At first I was often filled with fear, but the reptilian gave me many subjects to learn, and then I had to show if I really understood it or not. He always protected me. I was never in serious danger. I am eternally grateful. I love him very much. He's a very powerful being. In the beginning, when all the magic really started, it was all new and very, very difficult for me, and I had to repeat many tests several times until I finally got it. For example, I remember with a smile on my face when Loki the poltergeist started to haunt my house. At that time, I didn't think it was funny or amusing at all. I was very afraid, but fear weakens our light and strengthens the other side. So it was important to remember my own divinity and that there was nothing to be afraid of. But it's not that easy from a human perspective, not even now. I was confronted with the darkness itself several times. Sometimes the earthly word for what I experienced was simply horror. But it has happened again and again, and in truth, it is still happening. I am not spared. I have to overcome what is low in order to ascend higher, as we all do. But the reptilian also encouraged me to have some fun on Earth, because there were definitely things here that I wouldn't be able to experience on other planets. When he said that, I decided to try something new and, by my standards, completely crazy. He knew very well that I had volunteered time and time again to try and to get my fears of heights under control. My idea was to climb into a small light aircraft, marvel at my fabulous world from above, and at the same time see how far I could go. Where were my limits? Since I usually have my head above the clouds anyway, I wanted to physically go there again. Besides, I hoped I would be even closer to my dearest friend God Thor. After all, he always came to visit me, but I also wanted to go up to him as a human being. That was important to me. I wanted to be closer to his clouds. I wanted to go up to him. Whenever I faced the heights, I tried to remember that I was even closer to God Thor's clouds then. That encouraged me, and my dear friend God Thor encouraged me as well. So when I put together the plan in my head that I was going to get on a small plane, I mentally called the reptilian teacher into this conversation. I told him in a monologue what I wanted to do. I wanted to actively feel what it felt like to be a human being exposed to certain forces in the sky, while at the same time overcoming my fear of heights and being absolutely confident that I would arrive safely back on Earth. He listened to me. I told him what I wanted to do, but he had to come with me. That was my requirement, or my desperate wish for this project. He just had to be there. I said to him, "Look, let's make it a test. I will do it myself, but you have to test me. You are the one who has to accompany me. I am asking you to do this. I feel safe with you, and you always test me when it comes to the difficult or hard things. So you will be there this time too, okay?" But I didn't hear what he said. I didn't know if this was already part of the self-imposed test. But I know him. He usually tests the hard way. He's a very strict teacher. There was still time before the flight, and I just hoped he would be there. The flight was postponed twice, once because the weather was unsuitable and quite stormy, and the second time because my pilot was cancelled. There must have been reasons for this, but the time had finally come and the date was getting closer and closer. I was so excited and full of anticipation. I wasn't afraid. Rather, I was trying to be myself. typically Pleiadian, excited about the adventure ahead, hopefully with that reptilian. When I was sitting in the car before it started, I spoke to my teacher again. I could not feel or hear him with me. I couldn't see him either because he wasn't in my car. By the way, you will find out why he wasn't in my car at the end of the chapter. I told him telepathically that I would respect it if he didn't want to accompany me directly and actively, but told him that it was not very nice of him to ignore me so much, even if he wanted to take the test a little more strictly than I would have imagined. So I said to him, almost a little offended, "Look, I understand that I have to do the test the hard way. Okay, well, that's the way it should be. I'm not afraid, as you can see, but I'm excited. After all, you know that height is something special for me, and it's extremely unfair of you to ignore me like this." I took a quick mental breath and snorted slightly grumpily. Then I continued my monologue. "I accept that I have to go through this alone, but please," and here my voice became slightly wistful and a little pleading, "listen to me as a friend, not as a teacher. I beg you from the bottom of my heart to at least give me a sign that you will watch over me while it happens. Even if I can't see you, okay? Please." I sent him another burst of love and finally received an energetic response. He returned my affection and signaled that he would be with me. He would be there and ready. I felt like 10 tons of lead had fallen out of my heart. "Oh, thank you." He gave me a very short but very clear signal. I was so relieved. He really is a very strict teacher, I must say. The reptilian response to my last statement about his severity. "You have chosen this yourself. You know me. It shouldn't come as a surprise to you. We had it all worked out before you came to Earth." He smiles mischievously and slightly cheekily. "Hello, and what about the wheel of forgetting? From a human perspective, I have no idea what to expect." He lifts his head to laugh. "Yes, thank God it is. Believe me, there is a reason for that. Where else would all the fun and joy of your adventure be?" Great. I have to roll my eyes in annoyance at these words, but I am still smiling. Now we are both laughing. Okay, here we go. The pilot refueled the plane, checking all the safety precautions, and I was allowed to sit right next to him. Totally calm and collected, I was sitting next to an earthly pilot. How cool! As we rushed down the runway for the little plane to take off, I just thought to myself, "Oh my God, what have I done?" Suddenly we were in the air. Everything was getting smaller and smaller. My stomach was spinning for a moment, but yes, I relaxed quite quickly. That was just the first minute of shock. In between, I started to feel quite uncomfortable as we were flying higher and higher. "We are now over a kilometer above the Earth," the pilot said at one point, and I felt a little sick. But I wasn't scared. I was just really excited, but at the same time, it was a bit of fun. When we had been in the air for a while, I dared to ask if I could take photos as a souvenir. The pilot had no objections. But as I wanted to get the most out of the experience and had no interest in just looking through my mobile phone, I just took pictures blindly. If there were snapshots, that would be great. The rest would just be deleted. At one point we were almost 2 kilometers up. We had to climb higher because we were flying in mountainous areas. The mountains are so beautiful from above. The whole landscape is magnificent. From above you can see the size of Mother Gaia even better. She's huge, and so is her heart. In the distance I could see God Thor's clouds. I was much closer to him than usual, and that automatically gave me courage again. I greeted him with love and joy in my thoughts. God Thor is connected with me now. He knew very well that I was in an earthly flight machine and was flying towards him. How magical! I love my divine friend very much. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. I kept hoping the reptilian would be in the plane, but he wasn't, so he was testing me the hard way, and I had to accept it. As we circled some mighty mountains and saw many more beauties in the distance, we finally turned back. I savored the moments and the impressions, ignored my queasy stomach. My stomach didn't really like what I was doing here, but he had to deal with it himself. He had no other choice. Phew, but it was already high, quite a lot. So we turned back, and I wondered how I would survive a landing psychologically. But I knew the reptilian would be watching me closely, so I gritted my teeth and wrapped myself in as much courage as I could muster. I didn't want to expose myself under any circumstances, and at no point did I want to signal to him that I was afraid. He would have known immediately. I chose the test and wanted to show courage. At this time, my mental state was definitely borderline, but I managed to hold on. We did a few laps around the airfield until the tower gave us permission to land. I have no idea how the pilot was able to understand the broken conversation over the radio. That was almost more a mystery to me than the art of landing itself. The pilot said he needed to do a practice run and that he was going to cut the engine. When he did so, we were just sailing over the airfield with our motorized aircraft. It made my stomach turn for a moment. As he can be very resentful, I warned him not to make any mischief. He should just bite through it like I did. But as we got closer and closer to the ground and the various physical forces acting on us, my stomach rose again and I had a brief moment of shock or anxiety about the landing itself. However, this feeling did not last long. At the same time, my Pleiadian family telepathically enveloped me with much love. They opened my channels on the soles of my feet and let their energy flow in. It was very beautiful, and the reptilian was also connected to me, which calmed me down. I would soon get over it. He was very proud of me. In the meantime, everything was going according to plan. I showed courage, and so he was a little lenient on the last piece and signaled that he was there. My mom and dad also gave me a big hug. Thank you so much. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. We started the landing without an engine. As it was a training flight and we apparently didn't have enough speed or altitude, I didn't understand. The pilot had to start the engine again, pull up and go up once more. The landing was then perfect. We were taxiing very fast on the runway, just as I finally had the Great Mother under me again, when the pilot looked at me and smiled. "Well, would you like to go for another flight?" The pilot accelerated again and we said goodbye to the earth and were in the air again. We circled the airfield a couple of times. Again, I didn't understand a word on the radio, and the pilot signaled to the tower that he was going to make another attempt to land without an engine. We sailed off, free as a little bird. Things went downhill very quickly again, and the second landing was perfect. I trusted the pilot and my companions all the way. My mom and dad also wrapped me in a Pleiadian cloud of love as we neared the second approach. They were all with me spiritually. Thank you for that. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. My mentor also supported me on the second approach. He reassured me without me being able to hear him. But he was really talking to me and it worked. He just told me that. I didn't know until now. I'm not that strict, am I? Sometimes I can be lenient when I want to be. You showed courage, and for that, you have my full respect. You have done well, so I wanted to make the end a little easier for you. After all, you deserve it. He strokes the side of my temple. The reptilian sits next to me on the bed, while I lie on my belly with my feet in the air. I am so moved and I love him very, very much. So very much, thank you. Yes, okay, he is not only a strict teacher. I got out on wobbling knees as the plane finally came to a stop, and we were back on the ground. It was an act of strength for my body to face those forces or powers, perhaps even primal fears, and my legs were shaking a little as I got off. But, thank God, no one noticed. I was excited, elated, in a rush of emotion, and a little proud that I had mastered the flight so bravely. At home, reflecting on the experience, I looked at the photos I had blindly taken. Fascinated by the height we were at, I studied one picture after another and finally spotted a strange detail in one. When I looked at one particular snapshot, I had to stop immediately. I was really happy to have captured an object on my phone that was possibly a very special and very large orb. It was definitely out of this world. As I zoomed in on this detail, I put my hand over my mouth in positive horror. I was speechless, my breath was taken away, and I must admit that this moment was so emotional that tears were streaming from my eyes. I was almost hysterical with excitement. I actually took a photo of my friends or family's flying object from above by accident. There are no coincidences. I was allowed to photograph a UFO. A UFO! Ah, It was such a pleasure to give you a free reading sample. I really hope you enjoyed it. Perhaps we will meet again. Who knows? With courage and love in my heart, yours, Bella Isis.